welcome to this explainer. Today, we are diving into a really fascinating Arizona Court of Appeals decision, Bergeson versus West Frontier Condominiums HOA. It's an absolute masterclass in how the justice system disentangles an undeniable tragedy from actual legal liability, and it shows us where the boundaries of property management truly lie.
So here's the core question we're looking at today. Can an HOA actually be held financially responsible for a hidden hazard they literally had no idea existed? We're unpacking a tragedy that sparked a massive lawsuit, testing both the literal and legal walls of communal responsibility.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 1. A tragic condo fire. 2. The jury blames the HOA. 3. Who created the hazard? 4. The kitchen distraction. 5. Delegating the duty. And finally, 6. Reversing the verdict. Let's jump right in.
Section 1. A tragic condo fire. Exploring the limits of liability.
Back in 2007, a smoldering fire ignited in the electrical wiring right above a ceiling fan at the Frontier Condominiums. Tragically, it produced lethal carbon monoxide, taking the life of a tenant named Lynn Bergeson. In the aftermath of this absolutely devastating event, her children filed a wrongful death suit against the unit owners and, crucially, against the HOA.
Now, the timeline here is absolutely crucial to understand. The condos actually passed town inspections way back in the mid-'80s. Fast forward to 2006, and a ceiling fan is installed without ever notifying the HOA. But get this, the real kicker here is that the West Frontier HOA wasn't even incorporated until March of 2007. That's just months before the fatal fire.
Section 2. The jury blames the HOA. A shocking trial outcome.
So, despite that crazy timeline proving the HOA didn't even exist when the fan went in, a 2019 jury came to a really stunning conclusion. They placed a whopping 75% of the fault squarely on the newly formed West Frontier HOA. As you'd probably expect, the HOA immediately appealed this decision.
The HOA's appeal hinged on something called a judgment as a matter of law, or JMOL. Essentially, they were arguing that the plaintiffs completely lacked the raw, foundational evidence required by law to win. In their eyes, the jury never should have been allowed to rule against them in the first place.
To sort this all out, the appeals court took it all the way back to the absolute bedrock of negligence: duty, breach, and injury. The HOA stance was super straightforward. They argued there was zero evidence they ever breached a duty to Lynn. Let's look at how the court tested this.
Section 3. Who created the hazard? Tracing the origins of the wiring.
First up, the court looked at whether the HOA actually created the hazard. The plaintiffs tried to argue a theory of successor liability, basically claiming the 2007 HOA was just a continuation of the 1980s builder-developer. Well, the court flatly rejected this. The original work had passed city inspections, the developer vanished by 1995, and again, this HOA didn't exist until 2007. There was literally zero evidence that the HOA assumed the old developer's liabilities.
The legal math here is pretty simple, right? Since the HOA didn't build the condos, they couldn't possibly have created the defective condition. With the original developer long gone and those city inspections passed, the plaintiff's very first legal pillar completely collapsed.
Moving on to Section 4, the kitchen distraction, the problem with irrelevant evidence.
Next up on the docket was notice. It was totally undisputed that the HOA lacked actual knowledge of the bad wires. So the plaintiffs had to lean on what's called constructive notice, arguing the HOA should have known. And to prove this, the plaintiffs attempted a rather controversial pivot to a completely different room in the condo.
Here is exactly where the trial kind of went off the rails. The plaintiff's experts cut holes behind the unit's kitchen stove after the fire, found some exposed wire, and tried to use that to prove the HOA should have known about the living room ceiling fan wiring. But the appellate courts saw right through this. They ruled that comparing post-accident kitchen code violations to the fatal ceiling wiring was entirely irrelevant and heavily prejudiced the jury.
The judges hammered home a fundamental rule here. A landlord's duty to inspect only arises when there is a reason to suspect a defect. And honestly, there just wasn't one. There were no prior electrical complaints, no red flags. Absolutely nothing gave the HOA a reason to suspect latent defects were lurking in those walls.
Which begs a really practical question. Without a specific red flag, does the law actually expect an HOA to proactively smash open ceilings in privately owned units just to check the wires? The answer is a resounding no. It is legally and practically unreasonable.
Section 5. Delegating the duty, the final legal pillar.
With creation and notice totally dismissed, the court turned to the plaintiff's final, honestly increasingly desperate argument that the HOA improperly delegated a non-delegable duty. First, they tried to blame the HOA's maintenance man, Mark Furry, but the court noted he had absolutely no reason to randomly inspect inside private walls. Then, the plaintiffs argued that the unit owners themselves were basically acting on the HOA's behalf when they altered the condo.
The appellate court quickly dismantled this theory too. The trial jury was initially given a confusing instruction, but the reality is that unit owners are not independent contractors of the HOA. A tenant deciding to swap a light fixture for a ceiling fan without permission simply cannot magically transfer the liability for that choice back to the HOA. Which brings us to Section 6, Reversing the Verdict. The anatomy of an overturned decision. By systematically deconstructing these arguments, the appellate court reached a forceful conclusion. They stated that the HOA was effectively held to an improper standard approaching strict liability, but that is simply not the law. They reminded the lower courts that property owners aren't strictly liable for every tragic accident, only for those caused by negligence involving known or suspected hazards. Because the plaintiffs totally failed to present legally sufficient evidence of a breached duty, the appellate court took decisive action. That massive jury verdict was completely vacated and remanded in favor of West Frontier Condominiums. Just like that, the HOA was absolved of liability. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to consider this. Where exactly is the boundary between personal responsibility inside a private dwelling and communal HOA management? This case proves that the physical walls of our homes so closely mirror the legal lines of liability. You just cannot hold a communal body responsible for a hidden hazard they didn't create, didn't know about, and frankly, had no reason to suspect. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. See you next time.